Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of the Inside Sports Podcast. That's with the BE capitalized. Cole, Joey, Jordan. We got the opportunity to talk to head coach Kelly Bond White for this week's episode of Salute Space, where we talk about women's basketball. Shoot, let's just talk about that first. Why not? We got women's basketball that's going to be starting next week. We have a season opener versus McKendree. That's here in the Banterra Center, and we're really unsure what we're going to see from this year's team. But, I think they have a lot of good leftover players from last year. We didn't get to see AJ Ketcher, Lanaya Randall, a lot of these girls that really probably should have gotten more playing time if it wasn't for the COVID year and pushing everybody back. But I think we're going to be pretty good, and I'm excited to see what Bond White's going to bring to the table.
Yeah, just like you said, there's a lot of turnover with this team, but we should be seeing a lot more of these older players from last year stepping up into this year, even though that might not be where they feel the most comfortable at. We heard more from Kelly Bond White about who specifically she talked about. But
yes.
This is just a team that we just haven't seen a lot of with this group, and I'm just excited to just get into the season, see where Coach Bond White is going to take us.
Completely agree.
I think the first few games in particular are going to be interesting to see how this rest of the season is going to go in terms of depth. Who's going to be in that regular rotation, maybe 8, 9 players. Some teams do just 7 or even 6, depending on what you got.
Yeah.
Kara Love's coming back. I know she's a pretty good three-point shooter, but losing Sylvie Bruckmeyer from last year obviously is going to be, it's going to be tough because you don't really replace players like that in a year, maybe need a year or two of recruiting. But I trust Kelly Bond White. She's a big-time coach from Texas A&M. So
yes.
I'm excited to see how it goes regardless. 7th in the MVC preseason, I'm not really worried about that. I don't think they are either. They know what's at stake, and I think they'll have a good season.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Something I just want to point out as well before we move on. Over 81% of their scoring from last year is gone this year. It's just going to be a big task.
Yeah, that's Brockmeyer, Sylvie, and Gabby Walker, and they're all gone.
Sure.
So
the big three.
We'll have to find out. We're going to talk about, let's talk about men's basketball next. Once again, hasn't started their season yet, but we're projected as number 3 in the Missouri Valley preseason poll. That looks pretty good. I mean, it's almost looking like last year's women's basketball team for this year's team, right? We have so many of these 6th-year guys. Talk about Lance Jones, Marcus Damask, Trent Brown are all guys that have been there for more than 4 years. We just have so much at our disposal. I think we have the opportunity to be really good. It just depends on, how well we key ourselves in on our defense, which Trent kind of alluded to for us last week. But we just got to get the offense rolling. I really think that if we unlock that part of our game plan, then we'll be golden.
Yeah, and with the conference restructuring, I think there's a perfect opportunity to just try to take advantage of some of the higher spots, I should say, of the Missouri Valley Conference. Somebody else that I know you didn't mention yet, J.D. Mula. I'm just excited to see what he can do defensively this year. I believe it should be his 2nd year with the Salukis, but I loved what I saw from him last year. I'm just excited to see another year out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's fun to watch. And the other thing that's going to be interesting to watch this year, and I think the main reason the expectations are so high is because of how we hit the transfer portal.
That's true.
We got Juwan Newton from Evansville, Xavier Johnson from George Mason, and Clarence Rupert from St. Peter's. So we've got a little Cinderella magic in us.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the pollsters agree. Again, like I said, we're 3rd in the MVC preseason, which is higher than we've been since I've been here, or since I can remember. So the expectations are high. Murray State and Belmont coming in 2 pretty good basketball schools, especially Murray State. Of course, John Morant went there. Belmont has had some good players over the last couple of years going to the NBA. So it doesn't get any easier, even though Loyola is going. These 2 teams are really, really good. So they're going to provide that extra level of competition. And yeah, I'm really excited to watch how the season goes.
Yeah, you forgot to mention UIC.
Anyways.
I'm just kidding.
I was talking about the good.
Anyways. I'm glad that you brought up the transfers, though, because another one, to me, he's like the talk of campus, the 3-star, 7-foot guy, Cade Warnecker.
Oh, yeah.
I hope to see that we get some of him, we get to see the giant on the basketball court. But, yeah, I'm really excited for our new guys, and hopefully they'll get a lot of playing time. Women's soccer has unfortunately come to an end for SIU sports.
That was sad.
So, yeah, it's a little sad to see it happen. It was a big time upset too. Murray State beat not only number 5 Drake, but then they came here and beat us
At home.
at home, which is sad. And it was a really good season though. We made a lot of progress. The end of the season wasn't exactly the best. We're gonna have to see how this Coach Craig Roberts situation kind of pans out. You have to think that that's probably part of the reason why maybe we tended to fall short. But you
It's
just gotta put your
difficult.
head down. Yeah,
It's difficult to go through something like that throughout
Yeah.
the season for any team, no matter what sport you play.
that's 100% right. And you would have loved to see the storybook ending where we go from worst to even second or third or something like that. But it has officially come to an end, and they're gonna have to put their head down and focus on next season.
And I'm just so proud of the seniors from this team that have been through so much these past couple of years without winning many games, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
To have its season like this, making an appearance in the tournament is just an accomplishment in itself. So proud of them for the season that they've had, despite all of it that they've gone through.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. I mean, that's how I would want to feel as a senior. Obviously, on Sunday I'd be a little emotional, but
Yeah.
now you got to look back at it. If you're a senior on this team, you went through the whole rebuild from 2019 to now, and to be here having a winning record on the season. I mean, that's something that a lot of people didn't even think would be possible
Oh yeah.
for Lord knows how many years. So
I didn't.
the fact-
I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't.
Absolutely,
when I
absolutely.
watched them last
So-
year.
The fact that they did it this year and the fact that they had such a good season, for it to end like this obviously hurts, but it was a great year. I mean, coming on here every single week talking about how surprised that we were that they were doing so well. I'm gonna miss that.
Yeah.
Because them in volleyball too, which we'll talk about in a second, they both had rebound years, both had resurrection. So it was fun to watch. I know we left talking about it, but moving on.
Yeah. Next up, we have volleyball, which you were talking about. They're kind of. I'm a little scared for the volleyball team right now. I'm not gonna say because we're definitely not bad. We're definitely not bad, and I don't want to go on here and say that. But these past couple of weeks, we've kind of just teetered. I think that's a good way of putting it. We're kind of doing this. We did have 1 week where we were 2 loss, but we're mostly just going 1-1. Oh, we win this one. Oh, we upset a team. Oh, but we get upset. We kind of just do this balance beam of staying, very consistently good, 8-5 in the Missouri Valley. But I really want to see a 2-win week coming up against Indiana State and Evansville because I think we're both good. We're good enough to take both of them on, and it would just it cement our. I almost feel like I don't know what this team is in a way. I almost feel like this is to go to our, if we fast forward to a told you so little break off, or I feel like it's like the 49ers, right? Or how the 49ers lose the Broncos, but then they go out and they kill the Rams, they do that kind of stuff. It's been good to see the veterans kind of get in and with CeCe Bowman out, and Lucia Gittins, but we see Natalie Garcia and Tatum Tornado who lit it up this past week. So I don't know. I think we have a good team, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, basically?
So I'm just thinking we're such a freshman-oriented team.
Yeah.
We kind of centered around Cece when she was playing, and now she's not playing. So gonna have to try to step up with some of these seniors, and they have been lately at least.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping down the stretch that those seniors can put us past the edge in a way to make a conference tournament bid
I get what you're saying.
as well. But who knows? I guess we'll just have to see. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like we're at a point now where the freshmen, and I think Coach Ed Allen probably feels this way too. I think they know who they are. So I think we're at a point we're getting towards the end of the season where they're kind of coasting almost, kind of just waiting to strike for that conference tournament. I'm not really sure what else to say at this point. We've talked about, they're good parts of the season. Now we're, like you said, in that kind of 500 balance beam, it seems like. So we'll see what happens. I'm optimistic, obviously. Seniors are playing really, really well. Obviously, with the experience, you'd think that would be the case. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And then finally, for football, pretty bad loss against Northern Iowa. Seems like Northern Iowa tends to get us around this time of year. And they're a very good team. I'm not going to diminish that. Their quarterback went off. So did their wide receivers, which we will get into that a little bit more. But, current SIU is 5-4, 4-2 in the conference. It's not what you want to see. Surprisingly, that loss wasn't against the Northwestern, Big Ten team that we played. It was against SEMO and Incarnate Word, and we're starting to see kind of the play that we had seen at the beginning of the year, that we thought that was behind us, but then we come in and we just lose to South Dakota and to Northern Iowa, and it just makes me think. I'm like, what happened to the defense? Our defense was electric for those couple 3 or 4 weeks. It seemed like we were making nothing but turnovers for the teams, and then we might as well just give up 60 plus or however much we were giving up against Incarnate Word. I mean, I'm sure if we played Northwestern again, I don't know how confident we are in winning. It's just kind of sad to see, in all honesty. It just is.
Yeah, last week I was talking about how worried I was for the rush defense. This week now I'm talking about how worried I am for the pass defense and
Yeah.
those quarterbacks, and just they were absolutely nowhere on the field this past week.
Yeah,
It seemed
glad you
like
brought that up.
no matter what move the wide receivers were doing, it was going to beat our defensive backs, and it was just making me infuriated as a
Yeah.
viewer just watching that game. But I'm
Well,
just
coming
surprised.
from a fan too.
Yeah,
it's
as a
just
fan
like
too,
you're,
right.
you're wanting.
I
We want to see
we
us
can
do
do
really
better.
well. Yes,
We can do better than
that's
this.
exactly it. It's because last year, I mean, our defensive back room hasn't really changed much. I mean, we lost Quay Brown, but we still got Clayton, we still got Dave, we still got DJ, we still got PJ, and
Quay even
what
told
was
me
it?
one
I
time
mean, honestly.
that he called us DB University for a while,
Yeah.
just because we had Jeremy Chin
Jeremy Chin.
and Quay as well,
Uh-huh.
some of those other guys as well from past years that were just great, and now it's just, at least these past few weeks.
I didn't know what
really
happened last
disappointing.
week. I have no idea what happened.
I mean, it's been bad. I mean, they've been not great all year, and I think based on these couple weeks performance, I think we can look at that winning streak as the front seven was just playing so well and forcing so many turnovers that may have hid this ineptitude on the defensive back
I think
side
that's it.
side of the defense. And the other thing about Saturday's game that may have put our defense at a little bit of a disadvantage was our run game on offense wasn't getting anything going. Javon Williams wasn't getting anything going.
True.
Our O-line was getting beat at the point of attack. I think that was part of it as well. Couldn't get the run game going. Baker played an all right game. He threw the ball around a little bit. Didn't really hear much of Avante or Deontay really.
Mhm.
We scored a lot of points still, but again, that's not the winning formula. You have to be able to run the ball in this league. It's the best football conference in the FCS, obviously, and bye week coming up this week, which we need right now.
Yes.
Because that team we've got coming to town here for Senior Day
Yes.
doesn't really mess around the world famous North Dakota State Bisons, who are currently ranked number 4. I don't really care what they're ranked. They're able to win it all every single year. So,
Yeah.
well, I mean, like I said with volleyball, I mean, we'll see. Things are kind of in the balance right now, but rough week, rough week, and we've got a lot of preparing to do if we're going to be able to make any sort of last minute, last second jump to a playoff berth. Have to beat North Dakota State, and then have to beat Youngstown State after that.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the thing.
I hate to say it, but I do just want to say SIU seems to be wasting Nick Baker's prime. He did break a school record this past week
He's been lighting it up. He really
for
has.
passing yards in a game.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
And it was a 500 plus performance if you include his rushing yards total.
Mhm.
So, I mean, he's playing lights out,
Yes.
and we're wasting it.
Yeah.
And we haven't even brought up the fact that the last play of the game was a Hail Mary caught at the 1 yard line. And
Oh,
almost
my
stretched
gosh.
it out over. We probably
Almost
would be
won
having
the
this
game.
conversation right now.
Yeah.
Did we deserve to win the game? Probably not,
No,
but
probably not.
something like that happens at this point in the season. You have to take it, and to be that close, and like I said, if we got that touchdown, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. We wouldn't be
Mhm.
addressing the issues. I'd be more worried heading into this next game. I'm more confident in us now that we don't have to just put everything to the side and say, oh, we won. No, we gotta focus.
Yeah.
Gotta focus. Gotta get the DB straightened up. Gotta get the run game going again.
Yeah, I think that's really important that you mentioned that, and I just think, you talk about our upcoming schedule. North Dakota State, that's going to be, from how we look right now, granted we have a bye week, but from how we look right now, that does make me very nervous. I'm not going to say that I'll pick SIU in that. I don't know. It's just weird. It's a tough one. But we're going to need to beat Youngstown State, because Youngstown State last year, we had that incredible start to the year, and Youngstown 1-8 or something, whatever bad record they had last year. I mean, as an SIU football fan, it's a little sad to see this year. I really thought that this year we could probably take it to the next level with all of our guys, but Oh, last thing that I did definitely want to mention. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned on the pod, if you're not following SIU Saluki Sports, what the hell are you doing? I'll take the blame on all of these losses
Yes.
because me and Joey did the math before the show, and we are currently 1-8-1 since I said that statement. So our soccer team didn't win anything, football hasn't won, and the volleyball team just got a win against Bradley this past week, which is the only win that we have. So I'll take this one. I'll take the fire,
Take it on
but
chin.
it really it's not good. But we'll go ahead and talk to Kelly Von White, and we'll see how the women's basketball
Nick
team's
Hill's
looking
gonna
at
come
the
and
season.
strangle you.
Yeah, yeah, maybe it's my fault. Yeah, okay. Welcome to episode 8 of Saluki Space. Here we have the head coach of the women's basketball team, Kelly Von White. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And so we'll go ahead and just jump right into the questions here. So, how you're liking Carbondale so far? You lived in College Station for so long. Now you're back here in Carbondale. Do you have a favorite place to eat yet? Maybe a favorite place to spend on the weekends?
Ooh, favorite place to eat breakfast, since we were just talking about early
Mhm.
mornings, with always a split. It's between Mary Lou's and Harbaugh's. You
Yeah.
can't go wrong.
It seems like that's everybody.
Yeah, you can't, it's quick, it's easy, and both
Uh-huh.
of them are right here. You
Yeah.
can't go wrong with either one. And then Sergio's has been a popular lunch spot.
Yeah,
For
good.
us, dinner, I don't get that much dinner, but my family loves Fujiyama's, so
Mm.
those
Yeah.
are some places we've been. But,
She knows all the places. She got it
what
all
is
down.
it? Thai taste has been good too.
Yeah.
So we've had some spots. We've
Gotcha.
had some spots.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but you've already been around here just in a short time, a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
That's
making
what
rounds.
spots, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Making around.
But I was just kind of doing a little bit of research on you just last night. I kind of looked at your social media.
Mhm.
Just seems like you already are kind of living and breathing that Saluki lifestyle. And then I know the fans are just excited to have, a new coach for the women's basketball team. What's just one thing you want them to know about Kelly Von White?
Everything, if you go through my social media, everything you'll see is probably family oriented. And that's who I am. That's what I was looking for. When I looked at different universities that were courting me, Southern Illinois and Carbondale, I had been here before. One of my close friends used to be on the men's staff, Lance Irvin. He had been down here, so I came to visit him at one point, and I just remember the community. And I think that's what stuck out for me. I have a 10-year-old daughter. So just being in the community, we were trick-or-treating last night at the Boys and Girls Club. I think that's the biggest thing that has stuck out for me since I've been here.
And your daughters are adorable, by the way.
Thank you. She's nonstop, El Boogie.
So you kind of mentioned this in your introductory press conference that I actually got the opportunity to watch last year, but we just kind of want to reiterate that question for
Okay.
our viewers here. But do you think that playing point guard, especially at the D1 level at the University of Illinois, do you think that has something to do with your impressive coaching skills, and why? Because I play point guard, and you got to lead the entire court. There's so much more that goes into it. Do you think that's part of the factor?
For sure. You want the ball in your hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've always had the ball in my hand, and I do think it's a part of just being able as a point guard, even though your coaches are trusting you to be an extension of them, right? Because they're
Mhm.
giving you the ball.
That's right.
But the responsibility of that
Mhm.
is taking care of the four other people that are on the court with you, making sure that you know everything that they're supposed to be doing so you can help them. And I think over time throughout my career, just staying in that mindset of how can I serve my teammates first, then when it switched over to coaching, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, just knowing what button to push and being there in the trenches yourself first, because that's how people follow you, is when they see that you're willing to do the work as well.
And then just kind of going back to when you were deciding to just come here in general, and then even before that, looking at your other possible positions. I don't know your whole story, but if you had other coaching positions available, what kind of made SIU be that number one school for you? Be like, okay, I do want to come here. I was kind of thinking, it's a return to Illinois for you.
Yeah.
Was that something on your mind just when picking SIU?
Huge. And I'm a relationship person, so the funny story is I love to cook. So when Chancellor Lane and interim AD Matt Kupek came to College Station, I cooked this huge spread for them, and my family was there, and those guys can eat. So they kept going back for the pancakes, and so my daughter started referring to them as the pancake guys. So when we sat down and we started talking about opportunities, my daughter, my husband, it all caught on, like, the pancake guys. Like it's a trust, it's a relationship thing. It's something that I believed in their vision, and then when I got here, I saw what they were talking about. So for me, relationships are pretty much everything, and that's what got me here. And then the people here, and now that I'm here, that's what's been fun. Nick jumping in, Jen jumping in, Brian, all those guys, you know, just trying to help me figure it out, and be willing, show me how to recruit or what we do, or all the hidden jewels of Carbondale has been awesome.
Gotcha. And then, you know, we kind of, almost to brush up on the last question that I asked you about the point guard thing, you know, you clearly learned some lessons through that, but what lessons did you learn down, I mean, you spent a lot of time down in College Station, you spent a lot of time at Texas A&M. What lessons did you learn while being under that staff?
I think do your job.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest thing is do your job. People always ask me the formula for success that we have down there, and I really think it was 3-part. Do your job, which the number one thing is develop the young ladies that have entrusted their careers to you. Develop them on and off the court, and then the second part is follow through. Follow through is amazing. That's how relationships are built. People ask, how are you able to get that recruiting class so fast? Follow through relationships, not just when people have players, but just checking on coaches across the country and say, hey, I saw what you ran last night. That's a good little set, and it could be an AAU coach, a high school coach. But just follow when somebody calls and says, hey, little Jenny, she's killing it. She's got that 3, and you know you get 1 million of those, but you take the time to click the link to watch little Jenny. Shoot, Jenny can hoop.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just ignoring that, and then all of a sudden she's your second leading scorer. You know, on your team.
Yeah.
So follow through is important, but I think that's why we've been successful, and hopefully we can do that here as well.
And then I'm sure in your little, you got like a little history lesson, I'm sure, of SIU basketball here when you got hired. And I'm sure you heard a lot about Coach Stein, the previous coach. What's just something that you know she brought to the table here that you still maybe want to continue with some of her ways? What's something?
A lot of people don't know Coach Stein was my first year coach at Illinois. She was an assistant coach, so I've known her before she was part of my recruitment to Champaign. And then when I got here, the first thing I did, we went to lunch over at Bandanas together, and we sat down and we talked about kids. And she knew that she didn't give me too much because she knows who I am. She knows I wanted to make my own opinion of the young ladies here. But the biggest piece of advice that she gave me is figure out the movers and shakers in the area that can help the program. Figure out the people that are invested in making women's basketball successful. And that's what helped her during her time here. She told me we had a lot of good kids on the roster, but get to work, kid, because a lot of my girls graduated, and you need some players in here. But I think that was the biggest piece of advice, was meeting the people that are truly invested in women's basketball, and I've tried hard to do that.
And then kind of even like on the opposite end of the spectrum, just like what you said Coach Stein told you to do.
Yeah.
What's something almost of your own that you kind of want to bring to the table here that is unique to Kelly Bond White?
I think that's a good question. I think the biggest thing that I want to bring is transparency through our program. I want to bring the dog pound. I want to bring just Southern Illinois into our program. A lot of people have said, hey, yeah, we've seen it from the outside, but I want them to know it from the inside out. And I just truly feel like once they know me, once they know my staff, once they know our players, then you'll begin to see Banterra fill up, a little bit more. So if there's a uniqueness or anything about me, you walk into my office, you'll see a huge family sign. That's just not me and my player. I want our community to feel like this is our women's basketball team. I know what they're on. What's that play she just, oh yeah, I saw that in practice when they invited me. Back. I've been through the locker rooms and seen all the changes that they're making. Hey, I suggested that, and they went into it. We want you to feel like this is your program, is what.
We love that.
Yeah, definitely. And so, just kind of looking at your resume really quick, you're very used to the big dance. You've made 18-year, 21 teams at Texas A&M appeared in the NCAA tournament. Surely that's on your mind coming in with this year's team. However, we've kind of had trouble in the past couple of years getting over the hump. We have really good teams, but we don't end up, winning at all. What are you going to bring that kind of takes us to that next step? Is it a game plan switch? Is it bringing in different kinds of players? What do you have in mind?
I think you learn the most. Everybody learns lessons through success, right? But I think you learn the most in lessons of, I hate saying failures, but defeat. And you mentioned those 18 straight, which it should have been 19, which, you know, there's this dagger, you know, still in my heart that you have to learn from your failures. So I think coming here, one of the things that I'm bringing is I don't want our kids to focus so much on the big picture right now. You'll hear me constantly talk about next step. Hey guys, next step. That's all we're worried about right now. Now, in all fairness, what do you think I'm up at 5 in the morning? I told you I was a morning person. Why do you think I'm up? I can't sleep. No, but I'm up just because I know the vision that I have for this program. I know where this program can head, but I know I'm smart enough after that experience. You can't skip steps to get there. You've got to take that next step, and that next step is focusing on after our scrimmage. You know what? Yeah, we're athletic. We've brought a different type of player into the program. We're really athletic, but we rely on that athleticism way too much. We got to get back to the fundamentals, you know, of boxing out. I had Charlotte West in my practice the other day, legend here at SIU, and I was just picking her brain over some things, and it was all the little fundamental things that she picked out, you know, in the program. So that's what I mean by next step. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. I can see it just as clearly as day, but we can't get there and focus so much on the destination without taking the next step on the journey. And so every day that's what I preach to our kids. And it's boring. It's boring. They want to dream. They want to, and I want them to have those dreams, but I want them to understand work goes into that, and you can only get there by putting that next foot down.
Interesting. Very interesting stuff. Now, I kind of wanted to pick your brain on this sort of aspect about, you know, you're going from assistant coach to now a head coach, and the NCAA landscape has changed monumentally just over the past couple of years.
Yes.
Is there a little bit of anxiety about kind of taking a head coaching position in terms of, you know, you have to face NIL now. You got to worry about some of your players transferring if you don't make them happy enough.
Yeah.
Was there some anxiety kind of taking this next step?
Well, there wasn't necessarily anxiety because the man that I worked for gave me a lot of responsibility. So I felt that ownership a little bit. Now you're protected because you're under somebody else's umbrella. So the mistakes I made, people don't know the mistakes I made, the successes, because they're over his name. You know, he gets that. So now it's my name in the paper. And the only anxiety that comes with that is making sure I'm listening and making the best decisions for my staff. Because that's who I think about as well, my staff and my players, because I'm responsible for them. For me, the anxiety is just a little different. Y'all can't see it, but I got a little more color in these braids that I add to it to make sure I can hide some of those grays over there. But it's not so much an anxiety, it's just accepting the responsibility of understanding the changes. And I think that's where you see your most successful coaches, those that can pivot. We don't know what's coming with the NCAA. Today is NIL, tomorrow, you know, it's something different. But we've been very successful of receiving players in the transfer portal. So it's not something that I cringe about. I understand that people might want different opportunities for different various reasons. And if I'm going to accept them, then I have to be willing to know that that could be in our future at some point. So just try to remain neutral, right there in the middle, not get too high, too low, and just take it as it comes. But, you know, try to take care of your people, and that usually takes care of a lot.
Yeah. And you talk about taking in those transfers and taking in these freshmen. You know, how do you build a relationship with almost an entirely new team? I mean, I know last year's team we had so many seniors who got a lot of playing time. Now you're going to have a lot of young girls coming in and playing. I mean, what goes into making them not only respect you, but listen to you and just building a whole relationship? You say that you're good at that, but I want to know what goes into that.
You know, authenticity. I think if you speak it, you have to walk it. And so it's something that doesn't happen overnight. You're going to see kids when you're talking kind of raise that eyebrow, you know, at you a little bit, but it takes time. It takes time. So whether I'm going to dinner, going to lunch, just getting out of the arena with these young ladies and moving into their world and seeing what's going on, showing up at the classroom door with a cup of coffee or a bagel or something when they're walking in like, yeah, I'm class checking you, but I'm here just to, you know, offer you some food too, but showing them that there is a concern outside of that round ball. I think that's how you start to develop it. And then as you're consistent in your message of what you're teaching and getting them to understand first the respect that you've shown them outside that 94 feet. Then when we cross that line, and sometimes I have to be a little colorful, with them, they understand that, oh, that's Coach Bond. But you know what, I was just at her house last night with her cooking, and I know she's just trying to make me better.
Yeah.
But that's really important, more so than the X's and O's. We've tried to do that a bunch is because we're bringing in a mixing pot of so many, young ladies. You gotta try to do bonding stuff, not just with me and my staff, but with each other. There's you talk anxiety. There's a lot of anxiety there of people looking around like, where do I fit? Where do I go in? So defining roles, getting them to understand that they can change those roles. But this is where we are now. I think that lessens the anxiety when people understand, oh, this is her expectation of me. So that worked really hard to try to do.
Yeah.
So considering just all the newness within this team, there's a lot of returning players that are going to have to make that next step into the leadership role, and then the rest of them are new players as well, and you're new to the team as well. Is that a situation that you've actually kind of seen before in your time at Texas A&M, or is this kind of something new to you as well?
It goes back even before Texas A&M. As a player, I walked into Illinois. We were the last place. We were probably 15 in the Big Ten when I got there. So we had a ways to go. And then we got a new coaching staff. We had new players. So I've been a part of program building under Coach Gritz. Then I get my first job in the Big East with Jim Jaber at Providence. Again, we're at the bottom of the Big East. Again, we have to build, with new players. Arkansas, only place that was pretty established that I had already been, but it was still the SEC when Pat Summitt was stomping in her heels and everything and making big noise. So we had to learn how to climb that mountain. Then getting into A&M, people see the national championship, but we were dead last in the Big 12 when we got there with a whole lot of a northerner for the first time in the Deep South. And people looking at me and I'm trying to understand what they're saying because they're talking so slow. But, you just build and you keep the blueprint of success in terms of this is how we've done it and this is what it takes, and you just keep going and going and going. And to me, that's the only way to know how to do it. But it's a lot. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be, we talk about the Missouri Valley. I tell my kids all that, there's going to be some peaks, but there's going to be some valleys too. And what I'm trying to prepare you for, we're creating adversity in practice to try to prepare them for what's coming. And we kick off our first game of the year with quite possibly one of the best teams on our schedule, period. I think they'll be an NCAA team. So we're going to get tested right from the beginning, ready or not.
Do you feel any pressure coming off of last year where we had arguably, one of our best seasons? You had Mackenzie Silvey who broke the scoring record and just a lot of good stuff happened. Do you feel pressure facing it?
I don't feel any pressure. When we won at Texas A&M, we won our last SEC championship year before last. And we had 7 young ladies in graduate school. 7. So we had all of this veteran leadership. They were almost 30 years old. Yeah. And we had these kids kicking butt in the SEC to these freshmen and sophomores. Yeah. That's what Cindy did last year. She had so many incredible, Matt, Gabby, all those guys. And I see them walking around campus sometimes. I'm like, come on back, Gabby. Come on over here to practice. And those guys did work out and shoot with my kids. Kinsey, too. But when you look at it for what it was, she had the veteran group. Those guys should have made the NCAA tournament. I hate that was taken away from them. But you look at it as, it can be done. It can be done. Those kids paid a price to get there. That unit stayed together. It was built. They worked. Go back and look at where those kids started. And so that's what I talked to you guys about the next step. It's peaks and valleys. And you can't focus on that peak. You just got to know that it has been done before. So when you ask things that were attractive here, I watched Cindy toil. I watched her. I sat in gyms with her, and I watched how she stuck with it. And she was able to build this program to something. I was like, it can be done. It can be done. So no pressure.
Yeah. Per the Bond White formula, the next step, we want to know which players do you think have made the next step in terms of their game, looking at practices? Great
segue. Let's see. The next step for me right out the bat, who jumps off the page? And I'll say Aja. Aja Holmes was a young lady that got here late in recruiting and has been working and has gone through a lot. And she's taking that next step where she will be a big contributor for us. A returner, Lanaya Randall, a young lady that didn't play a lot last year, but works hard, has worked her butt off.
Absolutely.
And then Q is I know she is a fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Q is somebody that was indispensable for us when we got here, just as a leader who really wanted. You talk about the culture that was already here. Q was somebody that you saw holding that together. Even when I walked into my press conference, I saw her standing in there. But from the beginning, she was somebody that brought it all together. And then in the back scenes, Terry Brown is another young lady that is big. But I see a lot of next steps for somebody like AJ Catcher, who started out contributing a lot last year. They got beat up, got some injuries, but has stepped up, was voted captain by her teammates. And you talk next step, it's not natural for her to be truly vocal. She knows that's something I'm looking for, and she stepped up to the call with that. She leads by example, but she's also coming out of her little box and trying to be more vocal with this unit. And so we've had quite a few that have made next steps in their own right.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely seems that way. I'm actually really glad that you brought up Lanaya Randall because
Okay.
I remember watching her at the end of last season,
Mhm.
and she was somebody who didn't get off the bench a lot because they had a lot of those older girls.
Yeah.
And to me, she jumped out on the page, and
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, she's probably going to be somebody that we're focusing on next year. But
Yeah.
you guys have scheduled a lot of good tests at the beginning of the year. You mentioned one of them is probably going to be a tournament team. You got Memphis, Northwestern, et cetera. What do you hope to gain from those type of games, in terms of that experience and just that play style before heading into the also competitive Missouri Valley?
Oh yeah, every team that we scheduled in non-conference, which we had some that we had to honor some contracts that were already here, but every team we scheduled, we tried to pick somebody in the Missouri Valley that they played like. So either the head coach came from this system or they run this system, so we could get a true test before we got there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we went into scheduling. We do have a tough non-conference with some teams that, again, are established. But coming in, they didn't do the rookie any favors.
Yeah.
I think we got like 6 of our first 8 on the road.
Mhm.
We'll talk about that later, Missouri Valley.
Yeah.
But all of our non-conference scheduling, it all goes in mind of, one, recruiting. Recruiting is a part of that because we always try to take players home. When you see an East Coast tournament on our schedule, we're taking Ashley Jones home from Philly. That's her area, so we'll be out there for her. But other than recruiting, scheduling is always done to prepare us for January and February, March, maybe some April.
And then just to kind of wrap up our conversation here, what are the expectations that we as fans should have for this upcoming season?
Man, come to the arena and expect to have a good time. Expect to have fun. Expect to fall in love with these young ladies because of how hard that they work, and just come to be a part of it. Come to be a part of it, but definitely bring your hard hat. I've been told that there is a bandana tradition that is starting to build with women's basketball, so we might be throwing out white bandanas and everything to get you guys ironed up and come in ready to cheer for us. But that's the number one expectation, is to come in. Is it going to be fast paced? It's going to be hard nosed. Come in and have a good time. Prepare to yell your heads off, and I'm excited to see what this dog pound is about. I've witnessed it at football games, and now I'm ready to see what it's about in Banterra.
Well, that's pretty much all the questions that we got for you. Thanks so much, Kelly, for joining us. Once again, that's Kelly Bond-White, the SIU women's basketball coach, and we really appreciate her joining us this Saluki Space.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate you guys.
For this week's Told You So, we're going to head and talk about college football as we jump into it. I'm currently sitting at 25-12. I got more right than I got incorrect, and I'm still sitting at a 68% CPP.
You're getting better. You're getting better.
100%.
But we all know who the king is.
It's unbelievable. I don't know. I feel like I've been doing a really good job of picking the upsets, especially this year. But this one makes me nervous. Before we jump into potentially the game of the year, I got Kansas State over Oklahoma State correct. In fact, I couldn't have got that one more correct. It was 48-0. Ohio State beating Penn State correct. Tennessee beating Kentucky correct. I was a little bit wrong on them keeping it close. Tennessee is looking like the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jackson State over Southern correct. But I'll save that one we gotta save that one for the end. So
4-0 this week?
4-0 last week.
yeah, 4-0. 4-0. Let's start with Texas and Kansas State, my Longhorns.
Here, get this out of the way.
I'm only picking it. I'm only talking about it on the show because Texas needs to win this one. Needs to win this one against Kansas State. Kansas State killed Oklahoma State, and we get Kansas State on the road after they had such an incredible win. Man, this sucks, but we have to beat this one because I don't know if we beat TCU. I really don't. I mean, TCU usually lets teams get a big lead, but you know what Texas's favorite thing to do is? Blow a big lead.
Yes.
So I'm going to pick Texas. I very well could be wrong.
So are you calling them desperate for a win?
Yes.
That's why you're picking
I want to go 8-4 this year. I think we probably lose one more down the stretch, whether they be to TCU. But then we got Baylor and Kansas. I feel confident about those. But I don't want to be 7-5. I need a win against Kansas State or TCU because I think that we can pencil the other two in. Granted, with this Texas team, who knows? We need this one, man. We need it so bad. Next game. Number 6, Bama, at number 15, LSU. People are calling this one a trap game. Jordan, I'm really interested to hear what you think because you're a big-time college football fan just like I am.
I am.
To me, we're going to call this LSU team good. I mean, did you watch the first game of the year? Great. First game of the year against Florida State. But, I mean, I just feel like the LSU hasn't done a whole lot to deserve a number 15 ranking. It's Bama. I mean, I know it's in Death Valley, and they had a very convincing win over Ole Miss last week. But let's not forget that Ole Miss let Missouri and Auburn put up 30-plus on them the 2 weeks prior. Vanderbilt even scored like 24. I mean, anybody can score on Ole Miss. So, to me, I think Bama goes in there and cuts the rat poison and dominates LSU. What do you think?
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. If Bama were to win this game, I don't think it'd be close.
Yeah.
I think they're going to crush them.
Plus, it's Brian Kelly.
But,
all right,
I mean,
no.
what I actually think, though,
Let's
I think it will be close. I think
Alright.
LSU has a real chance to win this game.
Wow.
I really, really do. Brian,
Okay.
you said Brian Kelly. He is 7-4 against the spread as a home dog in his career, dating back to his opening season at Notre Dame in 2010.
And is he 0-11 in terms of winning? He has to be.
I don't think I looked that up.
Because he
And then you click over to the next tab.
never, he's like Mario Cristobal. It's big game collapser Brian Kelly.
And that's true. That's why I think it'll be close. I think Bama is gonna. I think it'll be maybe even like tied at halftime, and Bryce Young to make a couple
Wow.
huge plays in the second half, make it look bigger than it was. By the way, Kansas State's gonna crush Texas this week.
Shut up.
Let
You don't
me
know.
just-
You don't know.
Kansas State is.
He doesn't know he's talking.
If think about it, if Kansas State didn't have to go down to their third string QB against TCU, they'd still only have one loss right now. And I'm not saying they're like playoff contender or anything, but they've been looking like one of the best teams in the country when fully healthy. I'll just put that out there as well. But yeah, I would pick Bama in this game. When the new playoff rankings come out tonight, they won't come out before we're taping this. I don't know if LSU would be ranked at 15. I think they'll have to earn that by
That's what I'm
beating
saying.
Bama this weekend
Yeah.
or playing them close to even be in that top 20 range. So.
That's what I think. But granted, I'm telling you, I mean, I'll be rooting for LSU this weekend.
Absolutely.
I'm a big LSU guy ever since the legend Joe Burrow.
Absolutely.
I've always kind of liked him anyway. But
Best Joey B, I know.
that being said, I think that's
Really?
right. Yeah. Joey Bernard just doesn't cut it. On to the next game. Figure we might as well talk about this one since two powerhouses. Number 5, Clemson at Notre Dame. This will be a good one, but I mean Clemson's going to be able to pull it out. DJU. This was kind of DJU's coming out party, freshman year, and then he has done nothing but disappoint our expectations ever since. Granted, not entirely his fault. There was a lot of problems with last year's team, and he still brings them to 10-plus win seasons. It's just, everybody thought DJU was going to be the next guy coming up. In fact, it'll be interesting to see maybe his confidence is a little shot. We'll see a little Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi kind of thing going on right now. And do they bring in Klubnik? Let's do this first. Does Klubnik come in the game against Notre Dame?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You think so?
Yeah. I don't think the narrative going to be hitting is like, well, DJ had his best game against Notre Dame. He'll do it. Like, no, he won't.
No.
I'm sorry, he won't.
No.
He's not the same guy. He doesn't have the same talent around him. Travis Etienne was playing when he was starting at
true.
Notre Dame. All those great wide receivers. I mean, no, it's not going to happen.
Interesting.
Or, well, yes, Cade is going to come in, but DJ's not going to have a good game.
Yes,
Yeah.
I get that. I got Clemson in this one. So I don't really think it needs to be much said. Notre Dame's not struggling here. Clemson's still a very good team despite kind of a struggle against Syracuse.
And the weird stat I found is Clemson is only 14, 18, and 1 against the spread with a rest advantage. So they are coming off a bye week into this game.
You think
Notre
they'd
Dame
be-
played last week.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
That is
How
really
they come out. It's one of those rest versus rust things.
Mm-hmm.
They come out rusty, I guess, after a bye week. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. I think Notre Dame could definitely win the game, honestly, and change that. It'll change the whole narrative on their season if they end up winning this game. And
That's
some teams
true.
that have beaten Notre Dame, it'll look like a good win on their resume. Not that I would know, but
All right, let's get to the big guns. Number 3, Tennessee, and number 1, Georgia. Thank God SIU's on a bye week this week because I will be doing nothing but sitting in my living room just watching this game, tuned in.
Do we know
We
what
got-
time this game is at?
It's at 2:30. 2:30, folks.
prime CBS slot.
Put on your television. Put it on CBS. This is going to be Hendon Hooker versus Georgia's defense led by Jalen Carter, Keely Ringo, freshman Malachi Starks, but then Tennessee's offense. I wrote here, when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Tennessee's offense is that unstoppable force, and Georgia's defense is that immovable object. Now, Georgia's defense isn't nearly as good as it was last year.
No, we saw them get torched by Anthony Richardson a couple times last week.
We
Not
did.
over the course of a whole game, but a
We
couple
did.
times he
They
did.
did. They were close with that. Like, you let Missouri score 20. Listen, I'm not going to pick Tennessee, but I'll be rooting for them heavily. But it's in Athens. That's the difference between Bama and Tennessee, because that place was electric, and it still took 52 points to knock down Bama. You're going to be going into Athens. Kirby Smart, I already saw Kirby Smart's already put out a tweet saying, we need, whatever the stadium name is. I can only remember that it's in Athens. We need it rocking. We need everybody stand on their feet. Everything. I think it's going to be electric. We know that when Georgia hears teams go, hey, Tennessee might knock off Georgia this week. I mean, look at the first game against Oregon if you're wondering how good this Georgia team is. Granted, it's first game of the year, and Oregon's looked a lot better since. But still, it is confirmed they got that dog in them, for sure.
Well,
So
they are the Georgia Bulldogs.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I would even say at this point, they have it even more than Bama in terms of, they come out and they're like, we're pissed.
Yeah.
We're pissed that you think Hendon Hooker even has a chance.
Yeah.
So,
I totally agree. The stadium is Sanford Stadium, by the way.
there we go.
Between the
There
hedges.
we go.
Between the hedges. And the debate right now is which team should be number 1, 2, or 3. It's like Georgia, Tennessee, or Ohio State all have a case for number 1. That's
They
what
do.
most people are saying, at least. It's not going to matter. This game will decide that. I think whoever wins this game is the easy number 1 team in the country.
Yes.
Georgia, though, in a weird twist of fate, you said they had that dog in them. They are the worst SEC team against the spread as a home favorite. Only 15-22, which is 40.5% since Kirby got there in
That is
2016.
kind of good that you bring that up.
Since 2016, I'm picking Tennessee to win. I think the Big Orange will win
Really?
the game. Yeah, I really, really do. And if they do, think about having Georgia and Bama on your resume. Like that's.
I mean, you're a lock for
that's
the playoffs.
that's number 1, and then gap.
You're
to
a lock
number
for the
2.
playoffs. When you talk about that, we can talk about our Heisman Trophy odds. If Tennessee wins, I mean, it's over. It's Hooker's.
Oh, it's over.
It's
Yeah.
Hooker could sit out the rest of the year, and it's still his. I
Unless-
mean, it doesn't even matter.
Unless it's somehow a defensive game, I don't really see it being a tightly low-scoring defensive battle. I
I
think
don't
it
either,
would
really.
probably a shootout, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Do we know what the point spread is for this game?
I don't know.
8.5 last I saw. 8.5 or
Really
8. It
interesting.
started at 9.5. It's been bet down to 8.5 now.
Interesting.
I think a lot of people are going to be on Tennessee this weekend. I'm also on Tennessee this weekend. Go Vols.
Very
Go Vols.
interesting.
Go
Arkansas.
Vols.
I will be rooting for them, and part of me kind of wants to pick it because that offense. I mean,
Just
when
do
you're picking college football, offense typically beats out defense. But with Georgia just got 5 stars everywhere.
Cedric Tillman's back.
Oh, he's back.
He's back.
Oh,
He played last week against Kentucky.
man.
Not a whole lot, but he played.
That's a lot.
And I saw this morning, Nolan Smith, Georgia's edge rusher, probably a first-round draft pick. He's out for the season now.
Oh man. God, I'm gonna pick
Everything's
Georgia.
pointing Rocky Top.
I'm gonna pick Georgia.
Do it,
still.
yes.
But I
Tennessee guaranteed victory.
Man.
Guaranteed victory, Tennessee.
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say. I almost don't want Tennessee to be good. This is like deep down in my heart. Part of me doesn't want Tennessee to be good because Tennessee is what Texas should be every single year.
Yeah.
Is
Yes,
they get Josh Heupel and now they're top 3 ranked.
Yeah.
Like
He's the coach of the year, by the way. If you went to school.
But I'm anti Josh Heupel. I really am.
How can you be now?
Listen. Hear me out. It's a whole
If
other
they
debate.
get shut
We
out on
can't get deep
Saturday,
into
okay.
this. We've already got a lot of footage, but Josh Heupel literally took over Scott Frost's UCF program, and they got worse every single year. What I'm predicting, Josh Heupel is not going to be able to recruit at an elite level, and we'll see over the next 5 years. No, because he's got Nico coming in, and Nico's my favorite quarterback.
Literally everything is like. Not,
All right,
they're not
screw
that
it.
good
Tennessee's the best team ever, then I guess. But
Wait, so you're not? But are you taking them or not?
I'm gonna go with my heart. Let's go Tennessee.
Let's
go
go.
Tennessee.
Rock
So he
Get it
just
wrong.
convinced you on air.
He did.
Yes.
To go with
He did
Tennessee.
convince me. I'll because
I want him to be right. I want him to have a higher CPP
I mean
than
with
you.
Brew,
Just
McCoy,
I was rooting for the underdog.
with Jalen Hyatt, and with Cedric Tillman, that is really freaking good
Nasty.
wide receiver room. I don't know how many DBs they got. All right. I'll go with Tennessee.
That was amazing what I just witnessed.
Yeah. We'll touch on NBA real quick. I got a 75% correct pick percentage on that. I think an interesting one to watch this Friday is Raptors and Mavericks. Luka is destroying teams right now, so I'm going to take the Mavs. Toronto is just way too on and off. You know, you'll see that they dominate Miami one night and then lose to them by 20 the next night. So I like the Mavs. Warriors at Pelicans. It's an early candidate for this is dumb that I got written here, but best game of the first quarter of the regular season. You know, there's a couple 4 or 5 games that stand out.
Cherry
And
pick
typically
stat.
they'll happen about 4 weeks apart from each other. But this one, I could see this being very high scoring, and I could see this. You know, I could see the Pels win. So I'm gonna take the Pels in this one. Love Zion. Zion's back. Zion's back. They're like the deepest team in the league. I mean, it's really something. You should watch the Pelicans if you haven't gotten a chance to. And then on Sunday, there's Cavs at Lakers. And even though it's at the Lake Show, the Crypto.com arena, so stupid. It should always just be the Staples Center. It should be the Staples Center. But I call this Cavs revenge game, even though it's been 20 years since then. But I mean, the Cavs are so freaking good. Donovan Mitchell is really cementing himself as an MVP candidate this year with his new team, and I'm just really excited, and I think the Cavs are going to win that one. So, but no one cares about basketball right now. Football's still on. Joey.
Does anybody actually say the Lake Show? Other
They-
than you?
Oh no! Everybody would used to say it, and
I
it
have
used
never
to be
heard that.
I mean, before they sucked for the past 3 years, they'd be like, "Oh, LeBron's got the Lake Show going." It was a whole thing.
Now they're the Lake Blow.
I
Yeah, Lake Show.
like it. I like that one better. But
Way better.
back to
Hate
football
Speaking of blowing the Ravens and Bucks.
for NFL picks. I went 2 for 3 last week. The Niners destroyed the Rams in what was pretty much a Niners home game. If you saw some of that on Instagram,
Yeah, it
that was
was all red.
so much red in the stands. Bills beat the Packers like I thought so, like how a lot of people thought so. But I did love the progress that the Packers were making, committing to the run more than they had in the past with Aaron Jones. He got some decent amount of fantasy points actually, so I might have to actually pick up that trade that we were discussing. But anyways, we'll talk about that later.
I know.
And then the Browns clobbered the Bengals last night on Monday Night Football. That was really
insane.
weird. But
Thank you to Nick Chubb, by the way, for helping me win against. I think I played Brandon last week, but sorry. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, that was just a weird game. I didn't see that coming really, but I mean, we talked about on the podcast last week. The Browns generally do better at home against the Bengals, so
That's true.
I guess I should have seen that coming. But I'm 22 for 30 on picks this year for a 73.3 correct pick percentage CPP.
He's cheating. I don't know.
That's incredible.
I think he's just
Incredible.
lying about the numbers.
22 and 8. Think about that for a second.
I think he's just. You must be miscounting. You must be miscounting.
That's
the count.
It's the stats. Stats don't lie. The
Stop
stats
the
don't
count.
lie. But as my first game of the year, we're gonna talk about the Rams and the Bucks. These two teams are kind of underperforming this year. And who
Turd
would've
bowl.
Kind of,
Cole's
yeah,
turd
this
bowl.
is Cole's turd bowl for the
Yeah.
week. I knew he was gonna say that, but who would have kind of thought that they'd be in this type of situation before the season started? This is a rematch of that 2022 divisional game. It just doesn't look as good of a game. I want to talk about it because of how surprising it is that it's not a good game, really. But anyways, the Bucks coming off a little bit of a bye. I call it the half bye week because they played on that Thursday night game,
Mm-hmm.
and they get this one at home. they're on a really slow offensive streak right now. 16 points per game in their last 4 games, and they're on a 3-game losing streak. That's not a good sign. You don't really see that from Tom Brady. I don't want to say he's never been on a 3-game losing streak ever, but it just doesn't happen a
It
lot.
has to be rare. Yeah.
I don't know if it's happened very many times. But anyways, Rams are not doing very much better. But they've played a lot better teams in their losses. So just from that sign, that makes me want to pick the Rams. But then another big key here that I saw just looking at some of the stats, Rams they have the 3rd worst turnover differential in the league, and the Bucs just don't really turn the ball over. Brady only has 1 pick on the season, so it might be a turnaround game for the Bucs here just because of that turnover differential. I am gonna go Bucs here, 27, Rams 21,
I agree with
and
that.
considering this is in Tampa Bay, I feel like whatever team loses this game, it might be done for them for the season. Like they're just not gonna make the playoffs. I don't want to go too far with that.
No.
Rams might have if the Rams lose this game, they might have a better chance than the Bucs, of course, because they had their bye week and they have less losses. But anyways, I'm gonna go Bucs here.
I think I heard Tom Brady hadn't gone on a 3-game losing streak since 2002. So 20 years since Tom Brady's been on a 3-game losing streak. Turd Bull is right. I forgot to mention college stats went 1-1 last week. NFL stats went 1-2. So not a great week for the stats. I have a question though before I say the stat. Do you guys know who leads the NFL in passing yards currently? If you had to make a guess, make an educated guess.
It's not Josh, is it?
It's not Josh Allen.
It's not Josh.
Give
It's
me a
not
guess.
Jalen Hurts.
Is
It's
it
not
Jalen?
Jalen Hurts. It's Tom Brady. Tom Brady leads the NFL in passing yards right now. I kid you not. That's the truth. I looked it up last night.
Interesting.
It's crazy. And he is 6-2 against the spread with a rest advantage in a Bucs uniform. Like you said, they had the mini bye, both coming off an awful loss. Both of these teams are. This is the Turd Bowl. This is an awful game. Yeah, advantage to Tom Brady, who is the NFL's leader in passing yards right now.
Yeah, I want to know if that's updated from Monday Night Football last night because I know Joe Burrow was kind of lighting it up a couple weeks ago.
It is. The other thing is Tom Brady hasn't had a bye yet. A few guys behind him have had a bye. So even with that, the fact that he still is like number one is just kind of. I think he's like 150 ahead of Josh Allen.
Because didn't he have it last year too? Like at the end of the
I think
season,
so,
didn't he?
yeah.
Have
Which is still crazy.
It's still crazy
I mean, because
regardless,
the narrative this year is just that Tom Brady isn't him right now.
Well, I think
Which he
that
still isn't.
some of it has to do with the fact that they're behind in a lot of games, and he's having to get them back by throwing the ball, just like last week against Baltimore. So.
True.
And then talk about the Sunday Night Football game. Moving on to Titans and the Chiefs. These are 2 5-2 teams. Titans have 5 wins in a row. They're hot, but the teams they've played are really low quality if you kind of look at it. Colts twice, Texans, Commanders, and Ravens. They've all earned 5 wins in a row against. And they didn't really have to score a lot of points in those games. I looked at some of the stats. They only scored 21 points per game in those 5 weeks. But they didn't really need to score a lot of points because they only allowed 15.2 points per game in those 5 weeks against those 4 teams because they played the Colts twice. But this is in Arrowhead. I don't really know what else to say. I gotta go with the Chiefs just because that offense can be crazy in Arrowhead on Sunday Night Football.
For sure.
This is a rematch of that AFC Championship game a few years back, so that'll be intriguing to look at. But I just don't know how you could go Titans here at all. My final score prediction: I got Chiefs 31, Titans 21.
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction. I'd probably pick the Chiefs as well. But the 2 things that do travel in the NFL or in football in general are defense and run game. Those are the 2 things that the Titans do well. And they are 22-14 against the spread as underdogs since Mike Vrabel took over in 2018. So they love being the dogs. Remember when they made that run in the playoffs a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Derrick Henry beating Lamar and beating Tom Brady in his last game as a New England Patriot. So they like being dogs. That's the only shot I'd give them. Other than that, I think the Chiefs would win as well.
Yeah.
I think I'd be more convinced by them just if they played a more legit team. I feel like probably the most legit team they beat is the Commanders, and they're also last in their division right now. So that's just very intriguing that they're 5-2 considering the teams they beat. And the 2 teams that they lost to,
Bills.
it was
Bills
the
is
Bills, and I can't remember the other one. It was the Giants. They
Yeah.
lost by 1 in week 1 to the Giants. So the 2 real teams that they played, they've lost to. So, I mean, just how can you pick the Titans in this one? I don't
Well,
know.
and it wasn't just that they lost to the Bills. If you watch that Monday night, I think it was Monday or Sunday night, the Bills murdered.
That's just what the Bills do.
Yeah.
In general.
I know,
But
but
they have been.
even
past few years.
still, I mean, I agree.
Always. But yeah. Moving on, next game. I got Ravens and Saints. This is Monday Night Football. I don't really know what to think of this matchup. The Ravens also have that mini bye just like the Bucks do. They got that Thursday night game. They finally hung on to a lead this year over the Bucks. I know they were having some trouble with that. They blew a lead over the Dolphins, and then it was the Bills, I believe, that they blew a lead over in the fourth quarter. That was they could be 7-1 right now if not for those two blown leads.
Were they
had some trouble
Texas?
with that.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I know. But both of these teams are some pretty high-scoring offenses. The Saints are kind of surprising to me with how high-scoring their offense is, considering their quarterback struggles with Jameis and Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton is so streaky. I mean, I think 2 weeks back, he threw three interceptions on that Thursday night game against the Cardinals. And then last week, he didn't throw a single interception. He's just pretty streaky right now.
Yeah.
Had a pretty decent week this past week. Ravens, they have the number 2 rushing offense in the league. 165 yards per game. That's kind of crazy. They're right up there with the Bears, and I think the Giants are up there too in terms of rush yards per game. And the Saints, they have the number 14 rush defense, so that's, I mean, somewhere in the middle of the pack right there. But on the flip side, the Saints have Kamara, and he had a 3-touchdown game last week. 2 of those were on the receiving end, 1 of those rushing. Ravens are number 5 in the rush defense, so that'll be a matchup to look for with this
That
game.
is, if Alvin Kamara doesn't get traded, because there's been a lot of noise about Alvin
Really?
Kamara. Yeah,
I
Eagles
have not
are
heard
looking
about
good.
that.
Rams would be a good fit, I think.
Eagles and Rams have both been heavily interested in Alvin Kamara.
I would love to see him on the Eagles.
I do too.
Wow.
I know.
That's actually the first I'm hearing of this. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to envision Kamara in another uniform.
I think he looked good in the Eagles uniform.
I
think
do
you
too.
know when certain players like Christian McCaffrey goes to the Niners, that fits 100%.
Oh my gosh.
sure.
Like it totally fits.
Mm-hmm.
I heard something where someone was like, when Christian McCaffrey scores a incredible touchdown in the 49ers uniform, it just looks better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. But talking about the game again, I just have to go with the Ravens here. They got Lamar. They got the better rush defense. I still think Kamara will probably have a decent game. I just don't see Andy Dalton not making those turnover-worthy plays
Yeah.
in this game. I feel like he'll have a couple picks. I got to go Ravens here, 28, Saints 24. Might be a little bit bigger of a win for them, but we'll see.
Yeah, don't give up on the Saints though. I mean, they're a team that's like the epitome of we don't even know what they are. We don't even know if Alvin Kamara will be there.
Seriously.
They do have a win over the mighty Seattle Seahawks, led by Geno Smith, who did not write back
That's
after
right.
they wrote him off.
That's right.
The Ravens, though, are the 3rd best team in the NFL against the spread on the road since John Harbaugh took over in 2008. This is a lot of numbers here. They are 70, 51, and 8. So they've played a lot of games as road underdog or on the road, and they play pretty well when they are on the road. So I would go Ravens. The stats would go Ravens. Joey's going Ravens. It's all Ravens.
Completely agree. That's pretty much all we got today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to the Daily Egyptian YouTube channel. And if you are listening on Spotify, go ahead and like this and give us a follow. And that'll be it from us. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 8 of the Inside Sports Podcast. That is, of course, with the DE capitalized.